Good evening, I'm Robbie Alampay. The big stories tonight. After President Duterte revealed over the weekend that some soldiers have already received COVID-19 shots, the Presidential Security Group confirms that their members were already immunized with China's vaccines. The palace says no law prohibits the inoculation. But the local Food and Drug Administration is begging to differ. The agency says those who import, distribute, and administer unregistered shots are criminally liable. The FDA has yet to approve any vaccine for use in the country. The Health Department says it will look into expanding the travel ban to include countries with reported cases of the new COVID-19 variant. Other countries have already halted flights to Manila to curb the spread of the British variant. Transmission rates in Metro Manila have declined after Christmas, but this may just be because laboratories were closed during the holidays. The Octa research team is warning against complacency. And the President has signed next year's 4.5 trillion peso spending plan, but contrary to what the palace said the week prior, no vetoed item was mentioned. Let's start with President Duterte bearing updates on supposed early COVID-19 vaccinations involving his so-called errand boys, the military. But aside from questions on government priority, are the Chinese vaccines used in the inoculation safe? Maricel Halili with the big story.
Halos lahat ng sundalo na tusukan. I have to be frank and I have to tell the truth. I will not voice a lie. Marami na nagpatusok.
No other than President Rodrigo Duterte revealed that there have already been COVID-19 vaccinations in the country even before an official vaccine has been approved. Duterte said the recipients include the military. The individual supposedly received COVID-19 shots from Chinese pharmaceutical company Sinopharm, which has yet to receive any regulatory approval here in the Philippines. The Armed Forces of the Philippines denies having sanctioned the so-called vaccination of several soldiers.
Wala pong AFP sanction na inoculation o pagbabakuna sa mga miyembro ng Armed Forces of the Philippines. Given that information, patuloy po nating i-validate yung tungkol po dyan sa napabalita at sinabi po niya ng ating Pangulo.
But its unit, the Presidential Security Group, later on admits that its members have received COVID-19 shots. PSG says the president's close-in security were given jobs due to the nature of their work in safeguarding the chief executive. The military also has Malacanang's backing.
Huwag niyo naman pong ipagkait sa ating mga sundalo kung nagkaroon sila ng proteksyon. Tanggapin na lang po natin na importante na yung ating kasundaluhan, yung mga nagbabantay sa ating seguridad ay ligtas na sa COVID nang magampan nila ang kanilang trabaho.
And although Sinopharm has yet to be registered, presidential spokesperson Harry Roque insists its usage is not illegal.
Hindi po pinagbabawal ng batas natin ang magpaturok ng hindi rehistrado. Ang bawal po yung distribution at yung pagbebenta. So ito naman po ay tinurok sa mga sundalo na pumayag.
As to whether or not the president himself has been vaccinated, PSG Commander Jesus Duterte says the president is still awaiting for the perfect or appropriate vaccine. Some lawmakers and medical experts earlier expressed concern over Chinese-produced COVID-19 vaccines due to its alleged lower efficacy rate, one of which is from another Chinese vaccine developer Sinovac, whose COVID-19 shots were reported to be at least 50% effective based on trials in Brazil. Malacanang says that even without local FDA approval, other medical authorities abroad have deemed China vaccines safe for use. But the local FDA says caution is still warranted in using these shots. FDA Director General Eric Domingo says he has not personally seen Sinopharm's emergency use approval.
Kapag po ang Sinovac or ang Sinopharm ay nag-apply sa atin, tapos aside from wala pa po sila na pinag-applyan na ibang bansa na mga tinatawag nating mature FDA counterpart, then talaga pong magiging mas mas maingat po tayo.
President Duterte is also keen on getting shots from the West, so much so that he has warned of terminating the Visiting Forces Agreement if the United States fails to supply vaccines.
Kung hindi sila makadeliver ng baski na lang in minimum of mga 20 million vaccines, they better get out.
Secretary Roque insists this is not blackmailing.
Yan po yung ibig sabihin ng independenteng panglabas na pulisiya o independent foreign policy. Hindi po tayo sunod-sunuran, hindi po tayo didiktahan ng kahit sino. Ang sinasabi ng presidente, dahil tayo magkakaibigan, magtulungan tayo.
Meanwhile, the Philippine National Police is coordinating with the Food and Drug Administration and the Health Department to ensure that fake vaccines will not circulate in the black market. For News 5, Maricel Halili, we are One News.
While soldiers and members of the PSG rolled up their sleeves to get COVID-19 shots, the Food and Drug Administration is warning against administering unregulated vaccines in the Philippines. The FDA Director General Eric Domingo says access to unregistered vaccines are only allowed if they have been granted an emergency use authorization or have been approved for compassionate use through special permits. In a TV interview, Domingo said distributors of unapproved vaccines may face charges. The FDA has yet to issue any permit for the use of COVID-19 vaccines in the country.
Order, yung distributor, yung doktor, no, na nagbakuna, or yung healthcare worker na nagbakuna, because they are utilizing unregistered drugs.
As for Pfizer, the first vaccine maker to apply for such an emergency use authorization in the country, Domingo says the firm will not be required to provide proof that it is effective against the new COVID-19 variant.
The vaccine naman kasi is not designed for a particular variant. It's designed to act against the coronavirus 2019 virus, no. So hindi naman variant specific.
The FDA official also allayed fears on the impact of the new variant on vaccine development.
There's no reason to believe that the vaccines that have been developed will not work against the variant that is being seen now.
Health officials are trying to assure the public that the COVID-19 situation in the Philippines is still manageable. This as a more infectious variant of the virus has started spreading in other countries. But should the British variant be feared? Greg Gregorio tackles the topic in this report.
Following the emergence of a new COVID-19 variant, local health experts say mutations are normal for a virus.
It's a dictum in science na survival of the fittest. So the virus aims to make itself propagate or sustain its lifespan.
In the United Kingdom, 17 mutations were found, resulting in the B117 variant, which is believed to be 70% more transmissible.
Ayon sa mga pag-aaral sa loob ng mga laboratorio, ang bagong mutation ay nakadadagdag sa kakayahan ng virus na maka-infect ng human at animal cells. Current evidence suggests 70% higher transmissibility o ika nga, mas nakakahawa ito talaga.
British health experts explained that the mutations in the spike protein of the virus make it more infectious. They note, however, that there is currently no evidence showing that it also causes more severe condition. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson says Britain's genome experts continue to monitor and study the variant. Over here in the Philippines, some health experts say mutations can also cause the virus to become less harmful.
Hindi lahat ng mutations are ganito na nagiging mas transmissible. In fact, most of the mutations are either neutral, walang ginagawa sa virus, or in fact, in some cases, nagiging less virulent.
Salvana also explains that mutations don't lessen the effects of a COVID-19 vaccine in the body of a patient. The country's Food and Drug Administration is confident in the efficacy of shots, such as the one developed by Pfizer. The FDA is currently evaluating the application of the US-based firm for an emergency use authorization in the Philippines.
The vaccine naman kasi is not designed for a particular variant. It's designed to act against the coronavirus 2019 virus, no. So hindi naman variant specific.
Despite the mutations, experts maintain that the primary mode of transmission of the virus is still through respiratory droplets. The Health Department insists that the situation is still manageable, noting that we have already encountered a COVID-19 variant before.
Ganun din yan yung nagkaroon tayo ng mutation to D614G. That was also a much faster transmissibility, no? But the virulence mukhang neutral, hindi siya nagbago. So hopefully that trend will continue, but it still of course warrants carefulness on our part.
Interior Secretary Eduardo Año assures President Duterte that current measures in place are effective enough. These include the extension of ban on flights from the UK for 2 more weeks after December 31. Duterte on Saturday warned of another lockdown in the country due to the emergence of a new COVID-19 variant. For News 5, Greg Gregorio, we are One News.
The Health Department is set to outline with the IATF tonight its proposed control measures against the UK variant of SARS-CoV-2. This would include the possibility of expanding the travel ban to include countries which have already documented cases of the new variant. The DOH says that together with the WHO, they have been closely monitoring countries like Hong Kong, Singapore, and Australia, all of which have reported cases of the UK variant. The agency has already recommended a strict 14-day quarantine for travelers coming from these countries. President Duterte over the weekend extended the December 24 to 31 ban on UK flights for another 2 weeks. Secretary Francisco Duque had earlier said a ban would only be considered if there is already a community transmission of the new variant. We'll go for a quick break. When the big story returns, while the country has yet to decide on whether or not it will include other countries in its travel ban, some international airlines have already halted flights to Manila. And the capital region's transmission rate declined after Christmas, but what does this actually mean? We'll discuss when we return. Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay. Local airlines anticipate more setbacks as the travel ban on passengers from the United Kingdom has been extended due to the new COVID-19 variant. But even before the country expands its travel moratorium, international airlines have already canceled flights to Manila. Ria Fernandez brings us the latest from NAIA Terminal 3. Ria, are we seeing a decrease in passengers?
Robbie, right now we see an increase in the number of passengers here at NAIA this evening, but still it is far different from how we knew it during the holiday season in the past years. And like what you have mentioned, international airlines have already halted their flights to NAIA, all in the hopes of curbing the spread of what is reportedly a highly infectious variant of COVID-19. It goes without saying, passengers arriving at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport are required to undergo strict health protocols. But more so now that a new and more infectious COVID-19 variant has been spreading in the United Kingdom and other countries. Passengers are frequently reminded to properly wear their face masks and face shields. Physical distancing must also be observed. There are also hand-washing areas in public spaces. For contact tracing, passengers are required to download the Trace app before entering terminals. Foot traffic in the main gateway, however, is noticeably less compared to previous years. The arrival area at Terminal 1 is not expecting any passengers. Airlines abroad canceled their flights to Manila due to the virus scare.
In and out ang passenger before, yung mga nag-a-arrive, pumapasok ulit para kunin yung mga unattended baggage nila, which is ngayon, makikita nyo, wala ngang dumadaan halos, puro empleyado lang.
In the hopes of preventing the strain from coming to the Philippines, President Duterte over the weekend extended the travel ban on passengers from the UK for 2 more weeks. But according to the President, Filipinos are exempted from the order.
I would not agree with the idea of disallowing Filipinos to come home. Mahirap yan. Unless we can prove that he is contaminated.
The travel restriction also does not include flights to the UK as well as other countries that have detected the new variant. Overseas workers Marivic and Cedric, both bound for the Middle East, are willing to set aside fears of the mutation. The Middle East has already reported cases of the variant in Lebanon and Jordan.
Pag nandito wala namang trabaho, paano makakain yung pamilya pag walang trabaho?
Kailangan po natin makipagsapalaran para sa pamilya po. Para bigay po natin ng magandang buhay yung pamilya po natin.
For Health Secretary Francisco Duque III, strict adherence to the mandatory 14-day quarantine should suffice to prevent the new variant spread.
Ikonsidera lamang ang travel ban, Mr. President, kung nasa level na ng community transmission ang new variant sa naturang bansa.
Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara has assured the public that the Immigration Bureau has enough manpower for the intensified border control. This comes as President Duterte feared that there might not be enough employees manning the airports after the suspension and dismissal of its personnel due to corruption allegations. Robbie, airline operators admit that the new travel order will have a huge blow on their sales as it will further decrease their number of passengers. And despite that, they expressed willingness to support the government's ban, even if later on it decides to expand the travel restrictions. Robbie?
Maraming salamat, Ria Fernandez, reporting live from NAIA. President Duterte over the weekend warned that barangays with a spike in cases will be investigated. Will this mean localized lockdowns? Local governments in the metro say that might be a tad bit too much. Romel Lopez with the story.
Barangay Captain Noel Haplos patrols the streets of San Isidro and Parañaque City in light of the British variant of SARS-CoV-2. This comes after President Rodrigo Duterte's pronouncement that barangays with a spike in cases will undergo investigation. So far, Haplos had only tracked down minors roaming about and individuals with no face mask.
Makikipag-usap po ko sa mga homeowners association na ma-inform, lalong da po kasi may mga Pilipino po talaga na nagpapalusot pa rin ng dumadating sila sa ating bansa. So akin naman po panawagan, sana po magtulungan tayo kasi ito po ibang strain na naman.
Travelers to the country are required to undergo a 14-day quarantine. There will also be contact tracing among balikbayans, especially those from South Africa and Europe. Metro Manila mayors agreed to impose stricter health restrictions, but imposing localized lockdowns might be a bit too much, at least for Manila Mayor Isko Moreno.
For now, as I have said, kailangan natin talaga, huwag na tayo magla-lockdown, huwag tayong pumunta doon sa lockdown. Mas marami pang magugutom.
Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte shares the same sentiments. Belmonte in a statement say they are gearing up for the expected spike of cases in January following the holiday festivities. The University of the Philippines Octa research team meanwhile urges the national government to immediately ban countries with the new strain.
It's very important that we act quickly kasi looking back at history, and not just in the Philippines, but in the US, they did not close their borders early when the pandemic started. Acting early can help prevent a surge, and that's why it's very important for the government to act on this immediately.
Health activist Iggy Bayani allays fears about the new strain. Bayani explained that virus mutations are normal. While it could be more contagious, he says, it could be likewise be less severe.
Hindi pa evident na it's a very different virus. It still retains so many similar things to the original one.
For News 5, Romy Lopez, we are One News.
The Octa research team has reported a decline in the COVID-19 infection rate in Metro Manila. The reproduction rate declined to 1.06 after Christmas from the reported 1.12 rate a week ago. The researchers are telling the public, nonetheless, to not be complacent as the closure of many testing laboratories during the holidays could have resulted in an artificial decline. Still, they're not ruling out the possibility that fewer people went out in the days leading to Christmas. We'll go for a quick break. When the big story returns. The government has averted a budget delay. President Duterte has signed next year's spending plan. The details coming up. Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay. President Duterte has signed the 4.5 trillion peso 2021 national budget. The education sector has the highest allocation with 708 billion pesos covering DepEd, the Commission on Higher Education, TESDA, and state universities and colleges. The Public Works Department, the DOH, DILG, and the DND were also among the agencies which received the biggest share in next year's spending plan. The 2021 General Appropriations Act also includes an allocation of 72.5 billion pesos for government's COVID-19 vaccination program. Contrary to Presidential Spokesman Harry Roque's statement last December 25, the chief executive did not mention any vetoed item in the budget. President Duterte signed the spending plan in Malacanang with select members of both houses of Congress.
This important piece of legislation attests to the importance of an active and fruitful collaboration between the executive and the legislative branches of government, especially this time when the health and welfare of our people are at stake.
Two additional lanes at the Subic-Freeport Expressway are open to the public this holiday starting today until January 15 next year. The lanes will be open from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. This is meant to address the heavier vehicle volume going to Subic for post-Christmas and New Year celebrations. The Skyway 3 is also making a soft opening tomorrow, that's December 29. Motorists will be able to use 4 lanes of the elevated expressway for the meantime, but all 7 lanes of the 80-kilometer project will be formally opened by January 14 next year. Here's the best part. You can fly this road for free for a month. Now time for the big stories in sports. A look at the game with Paulo Del Rosario.
Thanks, Robbie. In NBA, the Dallas Mavericks made history. That is after they defeated the Los Angeles Clippers with a record-breaking 124-73 victory against them. Luka Doncic was able to dominate. The Mavs led by 50 points at the halftime, dominating both sides of the court. Luka Doncic dropped 18 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists in the first half alone. The Clippers were held to their worst three-point field goal percentage in a half in over 25 years, while playing without the sidelined Kawhi Leonard. The Mavs will look to carry their momentum against the Hornets this Thursday, Manila time. Catch all the NBA regular season action on NBA TV Philippines. Meanwhile, the Philippine basketball community mourned the passing of former NCAA MVP and champion Sudan Daniel. The former Red Lion reportedly succumbed to a severe asthma attack last December 26. He was 31 years old. Fondly nicknamed Superman, after he led San Beda to a legendary 18-0 title run back in the NCAA season 86. Daniel went on to become a prominent figure in coaching in the youth level, as well as becoming the passionate voice of the local 3x3 basketball scene. According to his family, Daniel's remains will be cremated and flown to the United States. That's it for the latest in the world of sports. Catch us again later at 9:30 p.m. on One News and One Sports Plus. My name is Paulo Del Rosario, and this has been The Game.
Thanks, Paulo. Over in the U.S., outgoing President Donald Trump has inked a $2.3 trillion pandemic aid and spending package. The measure will help America's ailing job market to recover, as well as avert a partial government shutdown. The package includes $1.4 trillion in spending to fund government agencies and $900 billion for COVID-19 relief. Trump backed down from his threat to block the stimulus bill approved by Congress as he heads closer to the last remaining days of his term. He was even seen enjoying a game of golf on Sunday as a potential government shutdown loomed. Trump, who initially sought higher stimulus checks for struggling Americans at $2,000 each, is set to leave office on January 20 next year. And that wraps up today's big story. Catch us again tomorrow at 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250. Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph. I'm Robbie Alampay, and we are One News. Good evening.